In this video, we will discuss how to work with variables in routing in ASP.NET Core Web API application. In our previous videos, we have discussed what is routing, how does it work, and how to enable routing. Then we added simple route to our action methods. In real-time applications, we need to deal with dynamic values like getting order details by ID, get employee details by ID, get books by author, etc. Let's understand how we can handle the variables in the routes in ASP.NET Core Web API application. Let's add one more action method. So copy this and pasting below that. Now change the method name. Your method name will be get by ID. Okay, now change the output. Now let's assume we have n number of student and we want to fetch one student by its ID. To access the student by using an ID, we need to have one ID in this action method. How can we get the ID values? The URL is the only place that will give the ID. So here we need to pass one parameter like integer ID, int ID. Then let's return the same value from this action method plus ID. Now let's update the routing for this particular action method. So I don't need this API. Then inside this route attribute, add some outcoded value like student, then forward slash. Then we need to pass the ID. In ASP.NET Core web application, if you want to pass anything as a variable, then you need to use curly braces. So inside the curly braces, we need to pass the um, name of the parameter. So here ID is the parameter. Here, see a student. This is outcoded value. ID is the dynamic value. If your URL like first we have the domain, then we have student, then passing some dynamic value like 1, 5, etc. Then this action method will work. Now save the changes and run this application. Now let's append the URL student. Then we have to pass the ID 5. Let's press enter. We have the output. Okay, now if I change the output, ID as 57, here is the output. Okay, this is how we can pass variables in routing. Now let's understand how to pass multiple dynamic values using the route attribute. Go back to Visual Studio. Here, stop the execution. Let me add one more parameter here, string name, your ID plus hyphen, then we will show the name. So hello ID plus name. Then we have to update the URL also. So here we have to use outcoded value like a name, then curly braces. Inside this we have to pass the parameter name. Okay, now save this and run this application. See here, if there is a exact match, domain, then student outcoded value, then dynamic value, then name, then dynamic value, then this action method will work. Now let's try to access this URL student, then ID 50, then we have to pass outcoded value name, then name will be Sharon, then press enter. See here we have the output. hello, then ID, then we have the parameter name. Okay, now let's change this ID as 59, then name will be Raj. So we have the output here. This is how we can map multiple variables in routing. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching this video.